My first thoughts when I realized that LoKi was going to have a series created for him were mostly surprise and delight, because I quite recently had filmed the scene in Avengers: Infinity War, and most people who've seen that film know what happens to LoKi in that moment. So I thought this is wonderful, but how are we going to do this? Because what happens happens. So yeah, I was so excited and I was so thrilled. I felt very honored that Marvel, the producers at Marvel Studios, had wanted to make a show about LoKi, and then really excited about where we would go. And they were very generous and inclusive in asking me what I thought I hadn't explored yet as the character. Because we covered quite a lot of ground in the Thor movies and in the Avengers movies, but there were still things in various bits of research I'd done over the years, which I thought, oh, we haven't done that. We could explore this, and they were gracious enough to include some of my ideas, but most of the best ones did not belong to me. So in terms of the bits of LoKi that you haven't seen before, what's interesting is that in this show, it's the LoKi you know in a world you don't know. And he's stripped of all the things that are familiar. There's no Thor, there's no Odin, there's no Frigga, there's no Asgard, he doesn't even have his clothes or his magical powers. And so the question for me was, without those things, what remains? What makes LoKi LoKi? And the TVA, this organization, this institution that governs the order of time, is extremely confronting for him. It sort of is a mirror for himself. And he's forced to integrate some of the things perhaps he's always run from, some of the aspects of his life and his interior life, and driven towards a curiosity about finding out more. So yeah, I don't want to spoil too much, but he's still the same guy. Charming, witty, charismatic on the outside, broken, fragmented, and a bit isolated on the inside. But there's room for maneuver, and maybe there's a chance he can change. We'll see. As an actor, what I loved about playing LoKi in this series was particularly taking the things that I feel we had built about the character over time, and then putting him in new scenarios with new characters, working with Owen Wilson and Gugu Mbatha-raw and Wunmi Mosaku and Sophia Di Martino and so many more. I don't want to spoil who they are and who they're playing, but these new, fresh dynamics with all of the energy that these new actors bring, and therefore kind of creating new connections and that in itself revealing stuff. That's the most exciting aspect of it for me as an actor, is working with other actors and seeing their brilliant ideas and how generous they are. Particularly those actors I've mentioned, they were just great. And so that feels very fresh and very new, yeah. One of the things I remembered about looking into LoKi when I was starting out was trying to remind myself that LoKi is the god of mischief, and mischief is as much a part of his identity as Thor is the god of thunder, and the way he swings that hammer and creates the lightning and the storm is a huge part of who Thor is. So mischief seemed to me to be a kind of guiding influence on the tone. And if you look up mischief in the dictionary, it says abstract noun, inclination to playfulness. I thought, okay, so everything just has to be, it can be quite profound, it can be dramatic, but keep the strain of playfulness in there. And I thought, the LoKi series wouldn't be LoKi without a bit of mischief. So I think all the humor comes from that twinkly, cheeky, slightly disruptive strain of humor that I think is threaded through the series. So yeah, Mobius is very confronting for LoKi, because LoKi's someone who's used to being in control, and he knows the cards in his hand and how he's going to play them. And I think Mobius is detached, and LoKi's a bit confused because his usual tricks and sort of powers of persuasion don't work on Mobius, who seemed kind of rather amused by it. And so Mobius and LoKi develop a unlikely and possibly unstable game of trust, really, which is they both realize they need each other, but they're not sure if they can trust each other, which makes it very fun. And Owen himself was just a complete delight. He was so playful and so prepared, and brought so many great ideas, and it was such a new flavor, for LoKi. I think I loved it. I can't say enough good things about Kate Herron. She joined the project about 7 or 8 months before we started, and the first time I met her I'll never forget, because I think it was quite soon after she had pitched her vision for the series to the producers at Marvel, and it was the most detailed and most passionate and most extraordinary vision I couldn't have. It was just amazing what she prepared. It was so passionate, and she had done so much work already and had so many brilliant ideas. And she was very respectful. She knows that the character of LoKi means a lot to a lot of people, and that these stories already have an established place in the audience's minds. And she was so respectful of that, but also brought so many brilliant new ideas to the table. She told me once, we went for a walk around Central Park in New York, and she said, the one thing I never stop doing, Tom, is I never stop working. And now that I'm at the other side of the experience, I can tell you that's absolutely true. She worked so hard and so creatively. She was just brilliant. Really respectful, really kind, very, very generous. And I think what she's done with this series is exemplary. I think when LoKi starts streaming on June 9th, viewers can look forward to seeing the LoKi they know in a world they don't know. And I think that's the most exciting aspect for me. And I hope for them. This guy it's the LoKi from Avengers 1. His ego is a bit bruised, but he's still got some good ideas. He's witty, he's charming, he's charismatic, he's broken, he's isolated, he's fragmented, but there's still room for maneuver, and there's still time, even though the series is kind of about time. But there's still time for things to change, and I think that's the most exciting aspect. LoKi he's been on one journey through Ragnarok, Dark World, Ragnarok, and Infinity War, and this is another journey, and I can't wait for audiences to see it.
Well, it's exciting to be a part of the MCU, and also to be sort of working on this series that is kind of introducing kind of a whole new storyline and showing the Marvel fans, introducing them to a new world. What attracted me to the role of Mobius is when I spoke with the director, and Kate walked me through the dynamic that would exist between LoKi and Mobius, and it just sounded like something that was kind of interesting, the way it was going to sort of be a little bit of a chess match, and and are these guys? Is it just a business where Mobius is, you know, using LoKi? Is there any feeling behind there? It's just there's kind of interesting nuances to play. Mobius, I think that is what sort of, if anything, can help keep him on equal footing and stay, you know, a couple steps ahead of LoKi. It's the fact that he has the TVA behind him, and what the TVA kind of represents, this sort of power to control the timeline. And so the fact that I'm, you know, able to know things about LoKi that he doesn't even know about himself gives me, you know, a certain power over him, and helps me to negotiate with him. Yeah, I think that the relationship between LoKi and my character Mobius is very fluid. It's, you know, they're two people that if there's a way for them to sort of use each other to for their agenda, they'll do that. And I think in a way, even though you can't trust LoKi, that they're in not being able to trust him and knowing that about him, Mobius does in a way trust him, if that makes any sense. Well, I know that what really helped me with this character was, you know, the whole look that the character had, but even the sets that had been designed for this. I think visually, I think this series is certainly going to be one of the most interesting things that I've worked on, and the look and the sort of what the TVA, the paranoia, sort of big brother aspect to it, that is going to be, I think that's going to be, you know, disconcerting and interesting to people. Yeah, my experience working with Kate, and what I appreciated, you know, about, you know, Kate's background and shows that she had worked on, was that she was very open and encouraging to any ideas that we had, and kind of explaining if I did have a question about sort of the you know, kind of what exactly was happening sometimes. And so it's just very easy to talk to, and then working with Tom was great. And the I really appreciated kind of the time before we started filming, where he, you know, kind of, we called it the LoKi school, kind of explaining the whole MCU and all his sort of his character's journey, because a lot of that you know, helped inform the way my character related to him. What I hope fans experience in watching this show is that they're, you know, that we're taking them into a new world, and that they're seeing something they haven't seen yet in the MCU, and that it's a story that is that they're going to find, I think, compelling.
I'm so excited to be a part of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Like, I fell in love with Marvel after watching Black Panther, and I was convinced that I needed to be a part of the universe after that. And so I was really, really excited and humbled to get offered this part in LoKi. What I love about Hunter B15 is that she's a stickler for the rules. And I think that's something that I kind of am too. I do not like breaking the rules, like, not really. I mean, sometimes I do. But I guess sometimes we all have to, right? But yeah, I really love that she is someone who, like, right and wrong is something that motivates her. It's like she wants to constantly be on the good side of history, of, you know, and that's something that I really admire about her. Yeah. I don't know how similar we are. I feel like that not wanting to break the rules definitely feels similar, but she's quite a lot tougher than me. She can handle herself in a way that I definitely cannot. So Hunter B15 is a hunter for the TVA, and basically her job is to catch variants of people who disrupt the timeline. And the TVA is there in order to keep the timeline in its perfect condition. And so that's what B15, that's her goal, her only that's the only thing that drives her, is making sure that this order is in place and remains in place. Yeah, it was really fun to play opposite Owen. Our characters have such different ideas of doing things, and like she's a stickler for the rules, and he's kind of like, oh, let's go left all the time. And so they're just so different. They're just so different in the way they handle things, and it's this kind of constant shifting to kind of get some sort of like balance of like and unity, but the goal is still the same. The goal is still the TVA. It's just their route to that order is a little different. I loved working with Kate. Kate Herron is an absolute sweetheart, and she's so passionate about our world and us as people and our characters and the Marvel universe. Like, she's totally she's a dream. She's actually just a dream. I love her. I do. I really love her, and I'm so grateful that she cast me in this, because I feel like it needed to be her or else I may not be here, she's great. So we had stunt training every day pre-pandemic. We had stunt training, and we would do like drills. So like kind of figure out how a hunter, the training that a hunter would have gone through, we basically were trying to emulate that. And so we all kind of did the same thing. So we all had the same physical vocabulary and understanding of our costumes and how our props worked. So it was quite physical. It was an everyday kind of, check in and make sure we got it right. It was a dream working with Tom. Tom is he's a sweetheart, and he was my third year at drama school, so I was his first year, so I was always looking up to him. And so it was really quite like, you get a little bit nervous when it's someone who's the years above you. You feel that kind of like, oh, that's my third year. And he was just really like open and warm and got us all into this world and made us feel like we were always a part of it. And so it was great. Tom's totally dedicated to us all being our best, and that's quite special. So he would take time to run lines with you. I mean, he really did take time to run lines with you, which was like, I've never had another actor just go through like my monologue like 50 times. He's a dream. He really is.
Yeah, I think being part of the Marvel universe wasn't something I'd ever really pursued per se, but when this came along, I was really excited to learn more. And Kate Herron, our director, pitched the whole 6 episodes to me over the phone in about 2 hours, which was kind of mind-blowing to get my head around the scope and scale of the TVA and this whole new element of the world. But yeah, and then, the idea of being a part of a LoKi show, you know, an anti-hero, a mischievous character that everybody knows and loves, and to be able to see, you know, new layers to his journey was really cool. And then my character, Ravonna Renslayer, a character I wasn't necessarily familiar with, but, you know, understanding that she's a judge, she's authoritative, she's respected and powerful, and she has sort of morally, you know, complex decisions to make. I don't know, I found the whole thing really intriguing, and also just the chance to, you know, do some action, some fights, some you know, more physical, you know, comic book kind of stuff, was really enticing as well. So what attracted me to the part of Ravonna Renslayer was really the fact that this is almost her origin story, if you like, and she obviously has a whole life in the comics, but for me to be able to play a judge, this authoritative figure who's powerful and respected, I hadn't really played a character like that before, you know, with that kind of gravitas. So I was excited for the challenge of that, and also the fact that she has this backstory as a hunter coming up the ranks from a military background. So knowing that she, you know, is tough and has really, you know, risen up the ranks through her own sheer grit and determination was really exciting. And then just also the dynamic with Mobius, Owen Wilson's character, I thought would be really fun, as you know, she's his boss essentially, and he's sort of this maverick agent that you know, has these sort of harebrained, more sort of reckless ideas, and she's always trying to sort of toe him to line, you know, and with the timekeepers as well. So I thought there was just a lot of, you know, scope for some fun dynamics to play. It was so great working with our director, Kate Herron. She's just amazing. And what was wonderful is that she is directing all 6 episodes. So it was really cool to feel like we were essentially doing one long movie. You know, sometimes in TV you have different directors, you know, almost every couple of weeks, and with this, you know, Kate really was the vision, and the vision was, you know, from her from beginning to end. So that's really great as an actor to have that kind of continuity. And she's just so thorough and so passionate about the world, and, you know, so detailed, and great with actors. You know, she's got this really calm, centered energy about her. Yeah, I just loved working with her. I'm so excited for what she does next. I had such a great time working with both Tom Hiddleston and Owen Wilson. The dynamics with our characters are quite different. I would say, you know, initially with Tom, who I knew a little bit from drama school many years ago. We were at drama school at the same time. So that was nice already to have that shared experience. But also, you know, his character, obviously, as everyone knows, the god of mischief. He's cheeky, he breaks the rules, and Renslayer is sort of the opposite end of the spectrum. You know, she's very sort of straight and steady, and, you know, she respects the rules and authority, and she is the authority. So when they first meet, it's kind of a fun sort of clash, personality clash, because you know, he doesn't have any of his powers at his disposal. She's not used to anyone being so disrespectful towards her, and so that was really fun to play in the courtroom. And then in terms of Owen's character, Mobius, you know, that's a slightly different dynamic and was really fun to work on, because Ravonna and Mobius have a sort of long-standing friendship. They've worked together for many years, and, you know, I think she has a bit of a soft spot for him in her heart, but, you know, she's also very professional. She's worked her way up the ladder, and she's not going to let anything compromise, you know, where she's got to in her career. So you know, but he is still able to kind of charm her and, you know, sort of disarm her in a way that, you know, she probably allows him to get away with a bit more than she would any of the other agents in the TVA. So it's fun because it gives us a chance to show sort of the public and private sides of Ravonna, you know, her sort of more professional facade that she uses, you know, in the TVA, but then in her office, when she's sort of unwinding, you know, after a long, difficult day, and sort of chatting with Mobius, we get to see a more relaxed side to her, and, you know, maybe even a bit of a sense of humor. So, so that's kind of fun. The sets on the show were amazing, and they were so detailed. I have to say, the production design, it was just like, sort of having looked at some of the imagery and the concept art, and then to step onto the sets, it's like stepping into the drawing. I mean, it was so transformative. And, you know, especially Renslayer's office, my character's office, you know, with the timekeepers, you know, the statues of the timekeepers and the big desk and the drinks cabinet and the reel-to-reel tape player, you know, that essence of that sort of 50s modern style, almost Mad Men-esque tone to her world, but obviously with a TVA twist, you know. And then some of the other sets, I mean, and sets that I didn't even get to act on, but I just sort of peeked at, you know, for other scenes and other places where the show goes. They're just such a big scope and scale to them, which is really exciting.